Last one. 3 guys walk into a bar. I've always wanted to start a talk like that. And that's funny, isn't it? 3 guys walk into a bar. It's funny. I haven't given you the punchline yet. It's funny because I didn't say 14 guys walk into a bar or 6 women walk into a bar. I said 3, and 3 is funny. 3 is a magic number. And I am here tonight to advocate for 3. I'm here working for 3. I want to promote 3. I want you to vote for 3. I want you to use 3. I want you to take 3 into your toolbox, and I want to use it. I want you to use it as a voice for the vulnerable. That's our theme tonight. And so I want to talk about 3. Now, the reason I want to talk about 3 is because 1 has gotten all kinds of press. 1 is always out there. Everybody wants to be number 1, right? We apparently need to put America first now. You wouldn't get elected if you said put America second, or put America third. First is best. We all want to be number 1. And then there's 2, and 2 is impressive. I mean, you gotta give it to 2. 2 owns right and wrong. It owns binary. It owns either or. It owns up, down. 2 has got it. It's got it going on. We couldn't live without 2. We need 2. 2 super important. But 3 is a magic number. And so I want to help you out with 3. Well, we all know this about 3. There are 3 blind mice, right? We know about those 3 blind mice. 3 little pigs. 3 little pigs had a house of straw, house of sticks, house of bricks. They knew about 3. They had 3 of those. And they said we all the way home. They didn't say we. And they didn't say we. They didn't go with 2. They knew the power of 3. They said we all the way home. And there was those 3 billy goats gruff. You know about those guys, those 3. They knew the power of 3, those 3. Living under that bridge, on top of that bridge, wherever they were. 3 is a magic number. 3 is a powerful thing because of the 3 bears. And the 3 bears, remember, it was too hot, and then it was too cold, and it was just right. They knew about 3. They gave you 3 choices there. There's 3 bears. And those 3 bears were smart. They knew about the power of 3. And it wasn't just our animals, and our fairy tales. It's our heroes and our epic heroes that we look to, like the 3 Musketeers, the 3 Amigos, Steve Martin. They knew about 3, those 3. There's the 3 Stooges, of course, but then there's the 3 wise men, and the 3 wise men showed up with 3 gifts. They had frankincense and gold and myrrh. 3. They knew about 3. And then there's the 3-pointer. In basketball, Steph Curry is taking over with that. There's 3 points for a field goal. There's 3 strikes, you're out. In baseball, when you root for the home team. Because if they don't win, it's a shame. And if somebody really hits one, it's going, gone. Hip, hip, hooray. 3 is so powerful. And I could keep them going, but then you could help me. You know my speech about 3. You know it better than I know it. You see, there's A, B, C. You can help me here. 1, 2. Do, re. How'd you know this? You know this stuff about 3. Well, then there's ready, set. You do that one. There's row, row. And Santa saying ho, ho. And then there's tic-tac-toe, of course. There's ready, set. And then there's tic-tac-toe, ready, set, go, A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. They just keep going, one after another. Red, white, and blue. Tom, Dick, and Harry. Peter, Paul, and Mary. 3 is a magic number. And it's not just the new stuff. It's not just a recent thing. It's ancient. Aristotle knew about 3. He had pathos, logos, ethos. You remember that? And later on, Caesar picked up 3, and he said friends, Romans, countrymen. And then there was a government that was made somewhere for the people, by the people, of the people, where they taught us to pursue life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness. 3. We know it's the truth. It's the whole truth. It's nothing but the truth. And that 3 stuff is not just something you like because it's poetic. It's something that's in the neuroscience of your brain. As people research and look into the brain science, they start to realize that 3 is interesting because it is the most basic pattern that there is. And our brains love patterns. Researchers at the University of Missouri have been looking into this. And a professor named Cowan is looking into this and saying, you know what's interesting about our brain is we build patterns. And patterns help us do what? They help us to avoid problems, and they help us to solve problems. They help us to predict things, which is why we have computers, because we can take patterns and build out things. Amazing things happen when we get these patterns lined up. And 3 is the core, the simplest form of a pattern. And so we love those patterns. Our brains love those patterns. It's the way that they're put together. These researchers at the University of Missouri did research, and they looked to see what is it that we could do with our brains. And guess what? At the end of the day, they realized that in our short-term memory, we can only remember 3 things, maybe 5 if you're really sharp. 3 is there in that magic number. Inside your brain, the physical makeup of your brain has 3 pieces, right? There's the cerebellum and the cerebrum and the brainstem. Or if you want to just use the terms I use, the front, the back, and the middle of your brain. And they do 3 different things. Inside of this dark, moist skull is this thing in there gaining information. And there are 3 chunks of it. We live on the 3rd rock from the sun, by the way. You knew that. And so these scientists, as they've looked at this, they've also been building on work that came long before them. Abraham Maslow, remember when he developed his hierarchy of needs, he had 2 that were really simple. We knew those. Cavemen knew those. It was that you needed to eat something and you needed to get out of the rain, right? Those are 2 of them. So that wasn't anything interesting. But the next 3 he developed were really interesting because he said that to be really alive, you need 3 things. The 3 things you need, according to Maslow, are some sort of meaning in your life. Maslow said that we need someone to love. Basically, this is my rephrasing of it. We need something to do, and we need something to hope for. We need someone to love, we need something to do, and we need something to hope for. And probably the greatest master of 3 in our entire culture was Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King went to seminary, and the rule of 3 was taught to them strictly in that seminary, and they learned it, and he learned it. And he learned how to preach. If you've ever listened to his sermons, they have this beautiful, amazing cadence, and they're always in 3s. And there's this one very special sermon he has. It's not really using the rule of 3 as much as it's about 3. It's called The 3 Dimensions of a Complete Life. And he says this and that. He says, unless you are 3, you're going to be flat. He called it the length and the width and the height of life. And he said, a lot of people focus on the length of life. That's developing, according to King, your inner powers. And so as you develop your inner powers, you become a better person. And if that's all you do, and you focus only on yourself, then you become selfish, and you become exactly the type of person that no one ever wants to be around because you are a flat person. You might be really good at developing your inner powers, but you're not impressive. And King wasn't impressed. He said, if you want to just live the length of life, then you can be a flat person and you'll never really make a difference in the world. But you could be a 2-dimensional person, he said. You could think about the width of life. And the width of life, according to King, was this outward reach to others, to look around and to realize I'm not alone in this world and I need to spend my life reaching out to people. And so he said, you have to reach out. You have to have length to your life, making yourself as good as you can be, but you have to have width to your life to reach out to other people. And then he talked about the height of life, reaching up so that you can give hope and meaning to other people, so that you become a 3-dimensional person. That's the way King looked at it. That was King's 3 sermon. And so we have this power of 3, and the question is, what will we do with the power of 3 for the vulnerable? For the vulnerable. And if you want to meet the vulnerable, what you need to do right now is you need to just look around you. Because every human being is so vulnerable. We all need someone to love us. We all need something to do. We all need something to hope for. That's us. And as we look around us and we think of ways that we can serve the vulnerable, I want to suggest that the vulnerable have had enough of one. They've had enough of know-it-alls. and people who only focus on the length of life. They've had enough, really, probably of two, the people who are really out there looking for someone to love them or something to do or something to hope for. Because they've had a lot of right and wrong and a lot of black and white in their life. A lot of Democrats and Republicans. But I wonder if they've ever met someone using the power of three. Someone looking from a three-dimensional aspect at their life and saying, I want to come in with this power of three, with this three in my toolbox. And so I want you to put this rule of three in your toolbox tonight. And you can use it in a couple ways. One way you could use it is just for yourself. You could say, hey, if neuroscientists say I can't do more than 3 things, then I'm not going to let my professor give me 18 things to do. See how that goes over. But you could use it to limit your schedule. You could use it to kind of organize your life. You could use it to say, I want to be really good at these 3 things. Be a great way to use the rule of 3. But you could also use it to be a voice for the vulnerable. You could go out and just say, what am I going to do in this world? What am I going to do with my life? And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go and give people what Maslow said everyone needs and what King said everyone needs is someone to love them. And give them something maybe to do that's important and give them something to hope for, using the rule of 3. And so I'm here tonight on behalf of that magic number. And I'm here to suggest that if we walk out of this room thinking not so much in the binary, not so much as champions of 1, to be number 1, but to be instead champions of 3, to say maybe, in addition to yes and no, that we could be the kind of voice for the vulnerable that we've heard tonight, that we've heard in all of these expressions, that we've heard in these stories of racial strife, of parenting struggles, of life difficulties, that we can be the kind of force using the power of 3. There's so many stories in our culture using this power of 3, but the question will be for you is, how will you use it to be a voice for the vulnerable? And I want to challenge you tonight to use that magic number, 3. Thank you.